The Martian Chronicles. Ray Bradbury's lyrical, weird, and occasionally terrifying trip to Mars, a place where humanity, in all its glorious stupidity, lands with big dreams and immediately starts repeating every historical mistake it ever made. If you've ever wondered what it would be like if colonialism, environmental destruction, nuclear war, and existential dread all booked the same one-way ticket to the Red Planet, well, welcome aboard. Let's talk about one of the strangest and most haunting books in science fiction. First, a little context. The Martian Chronicles isn't really a novel. It's a mosaic of interconnected short stories stitched together with transitional passages to create something that sort of feels like a grand narrative, but also not really. Think of it as a concept album, but instead of songs, you get little tragedies, intergalactic disappointments, and the occasional bit of absurdist horror. Bradbury wrote these stories during the 1940s, right at the dawn of the Cold War, when the world was still reeling from World War II and staring down the barrel of nuclear annihilation. And oh, does that paranoia seep into the pages. This is a book about humanity reaching for the stars, only to find that the biggest obstacle to progress is, surprise, itself. There are no aliens waging war, no cosmic horrors lurking in the void. Just humans being humans with all the arrogance and short-sightedness that implies. Mars, as Bradbury imagines it, is a place of quiet beauty, mystery, and ancient history. The Martians, those elusive golden-eyed telepaths, have been living their best slightly melancholic lives for millennia. Then, of course, humans show up and ruin everything. It starts, as these things often do, with small steps. A lonely rocket launch. A crew touching down in the dust, looking around, and promptly getting themselves either ignored, killed, or driven mad. The first expeditions don't go well, mostly because the Martians don't see the need to take these overconfident Earthmen seriously. There's one story where the explorers think they've arrived in a perfect replica of their hometown, only to realize, too late, that it's all an illusion created by the Martians. And then they die. Horribly. Then, after a few more disastrous attempts, the humans finally manage to stick around. Colonists flood in. They build towns that look just like the ones back on Earth, because of course they do. They rename landmarks, pave over Martian landscapes, and act like they've discovered something that was already very much occupied. It's a metaphor so on the nose that it could punch you in the face. The conquest of the American West, only with more rockets and fewer horses. And yet, for all their grand plans, humanity's grip on Mars is as fragile as ever. Most of the settlers aren't explorers, scientists, or visionaries. They're regular people looking for a fresh start, a way to escape the crushing weight of life on Earth. They bring their dreams, their loneliness, their disappointments. Some find peace in the emptiness. Others find ghosts, both literal and metaphorical. One man, a priest, searches for Martian souls to save, only to realize they don't need saving. Another story follows a man who's possibly the last human on Mars, wandering through empty cities, waiting for a companion who never comes. Of course, the biggest threat to the colony isn't Martian resistance or inhospitable conditions. No, it's Earth itself. Because while humanity is busy playing house on another planet, the old world is busy collapsing under the weight of its own stupidity. Nuclear war breaks out. Earth calls everyone home. Most of the settlers pack up and leave. The cities they built, abandoned. The dream of Mars, forgotten. The last humans left behind wander through empty streets, realizing that history is a cycle, and they're just another footnote in it. And then, just to hammer the point home, Bradbury gives us There Will Come Soft Rains, possibly the bleakest story ever written about a house. It's the only part of the book where Mars doesn't even appear. Instead, we get an automated home on Earth, still making breakfast, still reciting poetry, still doing everything it was programmed to do, long after the humans it was serving have been reduced to shadows on the walls. The war came, the bombs fell. And in the end, the only survivor is the machine, which eventually burns itself out and dies. That's the kind of book The Martian Chronicles is. A dream of progress, burned away by the realities of human nature. It's a science fiction book, sure, but it's not about the future. It's about the past, the present, and the patterns that keep repeating over and over again. The colonization of the Americas, the fear of atomic war, the way people carry their worst tendencies with them, no matter how far they travel. Mars is just a mirror, and what it reflects isn't flattering. Bradbury's style is what makes it all hit so hard. He's not interested in hard science. No detailed explanations of how the rockets work, no technobabble. Instead, his prose is poetic, lyrical, sometimes downright surreal. He writes about Mars the way someone writes about a dream they half remember, half longing, half nightmare. It's full of strange imagery, eerie beauty, and sentences that linger in your head long after you've read them. He makes Mars feel ancient, as if it's always been waiting for something, or someone. And yet, for all its bleakness, there's a deep melancholy beauty to the Martian Chronicles. Bradbury understands that space travel isn't just about science and discovery. It's about longing, about escape, about the need to find something bigger than ourselves, even if we don't deserve it. There's tragedy in that. There's hope too, but it's the fragile kind. The kind that flickers just like the last lights of an abandoned city. Of course, not everything about the book has aged perfectly. Some of the gender roles feel very 1950s, and the Martians themselves remain something of an enigma. But even now, 75 years after it was first published, the book still hits like a punch to the gut. Because in the end, the Martian Chronicles isn't really about Mars. It's about us. And the uncomfortable realization that no matter how far we go, we'll always bring our ghosts with us. So, what do you think? Is the Martian Chronicles a prophetic masterpiece, or just a poetic fever dream? Let me know in the comments, and while you're here, hit like, subscribe, and share, because if humanity's going to keep making the same mistakes, we might as well talk about them in style.
Silver ships cut through the midnight sky, dreamers chasing stars, reaching far and high. Touchdown on a land so silent and old. Whispers in the wind, stories left untold. Echoes in the red dust, voices fade away. Ghosts of cold and Martians lost in yesterday. Cities turn to shadows, rockets left to rust. We came with fire, but all turned to dust. Sandstorms wail, paved over stories in the Martian shell. But Earth calls back with its fire and war. The sky burns bright and we're here no more. Echoes in the red dust, voices fade away. Ghosts of cold and Martians lost in yesterday. Cities turn to shadows, rockets left to rust. We came with fire, but all turned to dust. Where the sandstorms wail, paved over stories in the Martian shell. But Earth calls back with its fire and war. The sky burns bright and we're here no more. Echoes in the red dust, voices fade away. Ghosts of cold and Martians lost in yesterday. Cities turn to shadows, rockets left to rust. We came with fire, but all turned to dust. Suffering falls, but there's no one to hear. All the mated voices whisper through the years. The stars don't mourn, they shine just the same, while history repeats in a different name. So we vanish like a dream in the sand. No footprints left, no touch of a hand. Mars keeps turning, cold and alone. Another lost world, another lost home.